The Plaza Hotel glittered like a fairy tale, crystal chandeliers casting golden light across marble floors. I adjusted my emerald silk dress, purchased specifically for today, my sister Olivia's wedding, and checked my reflection in a gilded mirror. The doorman had given me an odd look when I arrived, as if questioning whether I belonged in such an opulent setting. If he only knew. My phone buzzed with a text from Mom. "Where are you?" "The ceremony starts in an hour." I took a deep breath and headed toward the grand ballroom, the gift in my hand. A small, wrapped box felt heavier than its actual weight. Inside was a key, but not just any key. The key to everything Olivia had ever wanted. Growing up, Olivia had always been the star, the perfect daughter, the stunning beauty, the social butterfly. While I buried myself in financial reports and business plans, she floated through life on charm and looks. "Why can't you be more like your sister?" Mom would ask. "Olivia never has trouble making friends." Now, at 28, Olivia was marrying Bradley Thompson Ivy, heir to the Thompson Hotel Group. The wedding was splashed across every society page in the city. The perfect couple, they called them. The merger of old money and new beauty. If they only knew. The bridal suite door was cracked open as I approached. Inside, I could hear Olivia's voice, sharp with command. "No, no, no. The flowers are all wrong. Do you know how much we're paying for this?" "Fix it." I knocked softly. The door swung open to reveal my mother, her face tight with stress, despite perfect makeup. "Finally," she said, looking me over critically. "At least you dressed appropriately this time." "Catherine," Olivia's voice rang out. "You're late. I need you to run down and check on the place cards. Make sure they're done right." I bit back a response. Even on her wedding day, Olivia was giving orders. But I had long practice at keeping my thoughts to myself. The ballroom was a vision in white and gold, flowers cascading from every surface. I approached the welcome table where the place cards were arranged in perfect rows. The calligraphy was flawless, each name written in golden ink. I found my card near the back and froze. Instead of a table number, mine read, "Hallway seating, service entrance." "Oh good, you found it." I turned to see Olivia standing behind me, resplendent in her designer wedding gown. Her smile didn't reach her eyes. "There wasn't room at the family tables," she said sweetly. "You understand, don't you? We had to seat all of Bradley's important connections first. There's a nice chair set up by the service entrance. You'll still be able to hear everything." The carefully maintained mask I'd worn for months cracked slightly. "By the trash cans, Olivia?" "Really?" She shrugged, adjusting her veil. "Guess you don't count as much as real family. Besides, it's not like you contributed anything to this wedding." If she only knew how wrong she was about everything. I looked down at the small gift in my hands. Inside was the key that would unlock the truth about her precious Bradley, about the Thompson Hotel Group, about everything she thought she was marrying into. I had spent the last year working silently, systematically, uncovering every secret, every lie, every hidden debt. The Thompson empire was crumbling, and Bradley knew it. He needed this marriage, needed the connections and social status Olivia would bring to save his family's failing business. What he didn't know was that I had already bought most of their debt through a series of shell companies. What no one knew was that while they were planning this lavish wedding, I was planning something else entirely. I had intended to wait until after the ceremony, to do this quietly, privately. But standing there, holding my hallway seat assignment, something shifted inside me. "You're right," I said, my voice steady. "I don't count as real family. I never have." Olivia's smile widened. "Exactly. So you'll be fine by the service entrance." I picked up my place card, tore it in half, and dropped it on the floor. "No, I won't. Excuse me." "I'm leaving," I said, turning toward the door, "and I'm taking my gift with me." "Whatever," Olivia called after me. "It's not like you could afford anything worth having anyway." I paused at the doorway, looking back one last time. "You might want to check Bradley's phone, particularly his messages with someone named Diana at Goldman Sachs. They're very illuminating." Olivia's face went blank. "What are you talking about?" "Ask him about the leveraged buyout and the hidden debts, and why the SEC is investigating his father." The color drained from her face. "How do you? That's not." I smiled, a real smile this time. "Goodbye, Olivia. Enjoy your wedding, while you can." As I walked away, I could hear her heels clicking rapidly across the marble floor, no doubt rushing to find Bradley. In about 10 minutes, she would discover that his phone was locked, and he wasn't answering her calls. In 20 minutes, she would learn that Diana from Goldman Sachs had just sent an email to the entire Thompson board, detailing every fraudulent transaction she'd uncovered. And in 30 minutes, she would realize that her perfect wedding was about to become something else entirely. I stepped out into the sunlight, pulling out my phone. Time to set everything in motion. "Execute Plan B," I texted to my team. "And make sure the SEC gets those files within the hour." The response came immediately. "Already done. Thompson stock is starting to fall." I slipped into my waiting car, finally allowing myself to relax. The doorman who had questioned my belonging was now holding the door with careful deference. Word traveled fast in certain circles. As we pulled away from the plaza, I could hear sirens in the distance. Right on schedule. The real wedding gift was about to be delivered, and it wasn't the key in the small box I still held. It was the key to understanding that actions have consequences, that appearances aren't everything, and that sometimes the person you dismissed might just be the person who brings your whole world crashing down. My phone buzzed again. A message from Diana. "SEC agents just entered the plaza. Should I activate the final protocol?" I smiled, thinking of Olivia's face when she realized what was really happening. "Yes," I typed back. "It's time everyone knew the truth." The car turned onto Park Avenue as behind us. The perfect wedding dissolved into perfect chaos. My car had barely reached Madison Avenue when the calls started flooding in. First Mom, then Dad, then a stream of family members I hadn't heard from in years. I silenced them all, watching the city blur past my window as centuries of carefully maintained appearances crumbled behind me. "Turn on CNBC," Diana texted. I pressed a button, lowering the partition screen in the car. The financial news channel sprang to life, and there it was. Breaking news scrolling across the bottom of the screen. Thompson Hotel GROU under federal investigation. CEO ARRESTED on FRAUDCJRGE. My phone buzzed again. Olivia this time, her text almost incoherent with rage. "What did you do?" I could picture the scene unfolding at the plaza. SEC agents in dark suits moving through the crowd of bewildered wedding guests. Bradley being led away in handcuffs, his father already in custody in the hotel lobby. Olivia, still in her perfect white dress, watching her perfect day shatter like a crystal glass dropped on marble. "Miss Harrison?" My driver's voice cut through my thoughts. We're here. I looked up at the gleaming office tower that housed Harrison Global Investments, my company, though few people knew that. I'd built it quietly over the past 5 years, hidden behind layers of holding companies and proxy directors. Diana was waiting in the lobby, tablet in hand. Her sharp suit and precise movements reflected none of the chaos we just unleashed. The Thompson stock is in free fall, she reported as we stepped into the elevator. Down 60% and still dropping. Our positions are exactly where we want them. I nodded. And the evidence packets? Being delivered to every major news outlet right now. The full story will break within the hour. She paused. Your family's reputation won't survive this unscathed. They sacrificed that reputation themselves, I said quietly. They just don't know it yet. My office occupied the top floor, its floor-to-ceiling windows offering a panoramic view of the city. I deliberately kept the space minimal. No family photos, no personal touches, nothing to suggest who really ran one of the city's most powerful investment firms. Pull up the security feed, I instructed Diana. Multiple screens lit up, showing different angles of the Plaza Hotel. The chaos was spreading. Police cars lined the street. Reporters were arriving in waves, their cameras flashing like strobe lights. And there, in the middle of it all, was my sister. Olivia's perfect composure had cracked. Her veil was askew, mascara tracking down her cheeks as she screamed at anyone who would listen. Mom stood beside her, face ashen, while Dad argued with what appeared to be federal agents. Your sister's trying to call again, Diana noted. This time, I answered. How could you? Olivia's voice was shrill, hysterical. Wow, you've ruined everything. No, Olivia, I replied calmly. I just exposed the truth. Bradley's family has been running a Ponzi scheme through their hotels for years. They were using your wedding, your connections, to bring in new investors before everything collapsed. You're lying. Bradley loves me. Bradley loves your social status and your father's contact list. Check your phone. I just sent you proof. Every fraudulent transaction, every hidden account, every lie, he told you. There was a long pause as she presumably looked at the documents. But how did you? Her voice had lost its edge, reality finally starting to sink in. Remember when you told me I'd never amount to anything? That I was wasting my time with investments and financial analysis while you were building the perfect life? I allowed myself a small smile. It turns out all that boring work gave me exactly what I needed to see through Bradley's facade. The SEC, she whispered. That was you. I've owned most of Thompson's debt for months. I knew everything, Olivia. Every scheme, every fraud, every secret meeting Bradley had with his mistress while planning your wedding. Mistress? Her voice cracked. Diana isn't just from Goldman Sachs. She's been working for me, gathering evidence, recording every conversation, including the ones where Bradley laughed about how your wedding would save his family's empire. A choked sob came through the phone. Why? She managed finally. Why today? Why not tell me before? Would you have believed me? Or would you have run straight to Bradley, warning him, letting him hide the evidence? I paused. And as for why today? Well, you made it clear I didn't count as family. So I stopped acting like family. Through the security feed, I watched my sister crumple onto a gilt chair, her perfect wedding dress pooling around her like broken dreams. What happens now? She whispered. Now, the Thompson empire falls. Bradley and his father go to prison. And you get to experience what it feels like to be the one nobody wants to associate with. You've destroyed us, she said, but the fight had gone out of her voice. No, Olivia. You destroyed yourselves. I just decided to stop protecting you from the consequences. I ended the call, turning to Diana. Start the next phase. She nodded, fingers flying over her tablet. Within minutes, news alerts began popping up on my screens. Harrison Global Investments announcing the acquisition of key Thompson properties at fire sale prices. Our company stepping in to stabilize the situation and protect jobs. My phone buzzed again. Dad this time. His message was different from the others. We need to talk. I know what you've built. I stared at the message for a long moment. Of course he knew. Dad hadn't built his own business empire by being stupid. He must have figured it out. Perhaps even suspected what was coming. Diana, I said quietly, get me everything we have on Harrison Industries. She looked up, startled. Your father's company? But that wasn't part of the plan. Plans change. I turned to look out over the city. It's time for phase 2. Because destroying Bradley Thompson wasn't the end game. It was just the beginning. And my family was about to learn that the daughter they dismissed had become something far more dangerous than they could have imagined. A woman with nothing left to lose and everything to prove. The sun had set over Manhattan by the time my father arrived at Harrison Global's offices. The city lights sparkled below like scattered diamonds, a fitting backdrop for what was about to unfold. Impressive, he said, stepping into my office. His bow tie was undone, hanging loose around his neck, the only sign that today's events had affected him. Though you might have chosen a less dramatic way to reveal yourself. I gestured to the chair across from my desk. Would you have listened to any other approach? He sat, his movements measured. This was Thomas Harrison, the titan of industry, not the father who had overlooked me for decades. How long have you been planning this? Which part? I turned my monitor so he could see the financial data scrolling across it. Taking down the Thompsons? Building Harrison Global? Or proving that your least favorite daughter might actually understand business? Catherine. His voice carried a warning note, the same tone he'd used when I was young and dared to challenge him. It didn't work anymore. 5 years, I said, since the day you told me I didn't have what it takes to run Harrison Industries. Remember? Business requires instinct, Catherine, not just books and spreadsheets. He had the grace to wince. I was trying to protect you. No, I corrected. You were protecting Olivia. Everything was always about protecting Olivia. Her feelings, her future, her fantasies about marrying into the perfect family. Diana appeared in the doorway, tablet in hand. The final numbers are in. Thompson Hotel Group has filed for bankruptcy. Our acquisition of their prime properties is proceeding as planned. Thank you, Diana. I watched my father's face as the implications sank in. Oh, and could you pull up the Harrison Industries portfolio analysis? His head snapped up. What? Diana's fingers moved across her tablet, and new data filled my screens. Harrison Industries' complete financial history. Every transaction, every acquisition, every hidden deal. You didn't think I was only investigating the Thompsons, did you? I kept my voice gentle. I learned from you, Dad. Always look at the bigger picture. Catherine, he started, but I held up my hand. 3 years ago, you started moving assets into offshore accounts. 2 years ago, you began liquidating major holdings through shell companies. Last year, you accelerated both processes. I met his eyes. You're in trouble. The mask of corporate confidence cracked slightly. You don't understand. I understand perfectly. Harrison Industries is overleveraged. The market shift you bet against happened anyway. Now you're hemorrhaging cash and looking for a way out. I leaned forward. That's why you pushed so hard for Olivia to marry Bradley. You needed the Thompson connection to prop up your empire. He stood abruptly, pacing to the window. How did you find out? The same way I built this company, by paying attention to details everyone else ignored. I pressed a button on my desk, and more data filled the screens. Would you like to see what else I know? His shoulders slumped slightly. What do you want? Sit down, Dad. I waited until he did. I'm offering you a choice. Diana handed him a folder containing 2 documents. He opened it slowly, reading with the careful attention that had made him successful. A merger? He looked up sharply. You want to acquire Harrison Industries. Option 1. Harrison Global acquires your company at fair market value. You retain a position on the board, your employees keep their jobs, and the Harrison name stays intact. I paused. Option 2. I release everything I've found to the SEC, and you face the same fate as Bradley Thompson's father. You wouldn't. I just destroyed my sister's wedding and had her fiancé arrested. Do you really want to test me? He stared at the documents for a long moment. And your mother, Olivia, will be taken care of. The merger agreement includes provisions for both of them. I softened my tone slightly. I'm not cruel, Dad. I just wanted you to see me. Really see me. I see you now, he said quietly. God help me. I see you. He picked up the pen Diana had placed before him, then paused. The timing of all this, Bradley, the wedding, this offer, you planned it this way, didn't you? I smiled. Like you said, business requires instinct. He signed. As Diana whisked the papers away for processing, my father remained seated, looking somehow both older and more alert than I'd ever seen him. What happens now? He asked. Now, you go home to Mom. Help her understand that her world hasn't ended, it's just changed. Help Olivia realize that there's more to life than appearances. I stood. And tomorrow you come back here, and we begin the process of saving everything you built. And you. For the first time, there was genuine curiosity in his voice. What do you get out of this? Besides control of one of the largest private investment firms in the city? I walked to the window, looking out at the empire I'd built while everyone was watching Olivia. I get the satisfaction of knowing that the daughter you underestimated now holds the key to your survival. He joined me at the window. I was wrong about you. Yes, I agreed. You were. As if on cue, my phone buzzed with a news alert. Harrison Global announces acquisition of Harrison Industries. Markets respond positively. One last thing, I said as he turned to leave. That chair by the trash cans at Olivia's wedding? It wasn't just an insult. It was the final test. If she had shown even a moment of kindness, of real sisterly feeling. I shrugged. This might have played out very differently. He nodded slowly. She failed the test. They all did. Every time. I sat back behind my desk. Good night, Dad. I'll see you at tomorrow's board meeting. After he left, Diana returned with a stack of papers requiring my attention. The merger would keep us busy for months, but that was fine. I had always preferred working to socializing anyway. My phone buzzed one last time. A message from Olivia. I'm sorry. For everything. Too little, too late. But maybe, just maybe, some good would come from all this. Maybe my sister would learn what I had known all along. That true worth isn't found in perfect weddings or social connections, but in what you build with your own hands and mind. I turned back to my work, the city lights twinkling below like stars. The daughter they hadn't wanted at the wedding now owned their future. The sister they had seated by the trash now controlled their fate. And I wasn't done yet. Not even close. Because success isn't just about proving others wrong. It's about proving yourself right. And I had only just begun to show what I could do. Diana cleared her throat softly. The press is requesting statements about the merger, and your mother has been calling the office. I smiled, picking up the small gift box I'd intended to give at the wedding. Inside, the key gleamed in the evening light. No longer needed, but a perfect reminder of how far I'd come. Tell them, I said, that Harrison Global is just getting started. The city stretched out before me, full of possibilities. Sometimes the best revenge isn't served cold. It's served from the top floor of the building you bought, while no one was looking. And sometimes the sister they didn't want at the wedding becomes the woman they can't afford to ignore.
Effie, my mother-in-law, told me that if I didn't go on the trip she planned, I wouldn't be considered part of the family anymore because I married her son, Cody. She wanted Cody to agree with her. I stopped Cody from saying anything and agreed to go on the trip to avoid conflict. Effie said marrying someone like me, who she thought was inexperienced, was a hassle. She warned that if I didn't come, she would consider divorcing Cody and would teach me things her way. I was fed up with her rude comments. Little did I know, this trip would be the last one with my in-laws. My name is Liliana, and I'm 32 years old. I own a small app development company, which I really enjoy. My husband, Cody, is 37, and he works at a bank. We both love our jobs and often talk about them for hours. Cody understands and supports my work, and we share household chores. Even though we've been married for 4 years, we don't have children yet because we're focused on our careers. But we both like kids and hope to have some in the future. My family owns an auto parts factory that my dad started, and now my brother runs it. They've been very supportive of my dream to start my own company, even though our businesses are different. I often seek advice from my dad and brother, who are also business owners. They've always been there for me, so my family is a big support in my life. Cody's family owns a small factory, and since he was their only child, they expected him to take over one day. But Cody had different plans. The factory wasn't doing well, and his dad, Andy, was thinking about closing it down. Running a small factory is tough these days. When Cody was young, he often overheard his dad talking to bankers on the phone. He even met a friendly banker during a visit to the factory and started going to the bank with his dad just to see him. That's how he got interested in banking. Cody worked hard to make his dream of becoming a banker come true, and now he works at a big bank. Even though everything might seem okay between Cody and me, our marriage isn't going well. Cody's mom, Effie, doesn't think highly of my job. I can work from home sometimes because my job allows it, but Effie sees it as a pointless job and doesn't understand it at all. I get it. It's hard for our parents' generation to understand jobs like mine. Even though my job isn't physically demanding, it's still tiring. I always adjust my work schedule around Cody's family's plans so I don't bother them. I don't expect them to get it, but it's frustrating when they think working from home is easy just because my schedule is flexible. Effie disapproves of other things about us too. When we got married, we built our own house between our parents' homes. It takes less than 30 minutes to get to either house. We both work and manage our money separately. We like having our own space and privacy, even as a couple. We each contribute a set amount of money for household expenses every month and save the rest for our future. But Effie doesn't like this lifestyle either. She thinks it's wrong for a couple to keep things private. According to her, family members shouldn't have secrets, and she doesn't think we're a real family because of it. Effie seems to have a problem with me, probably because she really likes her son Cody, and I'm just in her way. Whenever we see each other, she makes mean comments about us not having kids yet. It's a sensitive topic for me, and I'd rather not talk about it. Normally, people avoid bringing up things like that, but Effie keeps mentioning it every time we meet. So, to avoid upsetting Cody, I've been staying late at work on purpose to miss seeing her. Effie has done other surprising things too, But one thing she did really upset me. It was on the day of my best friend's wedding. After the wedding, my friend was moving far away, so we wouldn't see each other as much because of our jobs. I was really excited to celebrate her special day, but a week before the wedding, Andy asked me to go to an important business event. I said no. The only thing more important to me than my friend's wedding would be if a parent was really sick. But that night, something unexpected happened. When I got home from work, my in-laws were at our house. As soon as she saw me, Effie got really mad. "Liliana, what's wrong with you? Saying no to Andy's request is rude. You're married to my son, so you should put family first. Your refusal is not okay. You need to think about what's important," she yelled at me. Cody was there too, but he didn't say anything. After finding out that the reception Andy asked me to attend was crucial for the future of the company, I understood the seriousness of the situation. But to me, my best friend's wedding was just as important. I explained to Effie, "I get what you're saying, but my best friend's wedding means a lot to me, and I don't want to miss it. Plus, I don't even work for Andy's company." Even Cody joined in, saying, "Can't you make an exception this time? This is really important for the company's survival." "I'm going to, and it's a family effort. We can make it up to you for missing the wedding. It's a family crisis. Can't you help us?" I was shocked to hear Cody say that. He knew how excited I was about the wedding. Then Andy added, "I understand Liliana's perspective, but this time we really need your help." The atmosphere made it hard for me to refuse. It wasn't just any reception. In the end, I reluctantly agreed to skip my best friend's wedding. I told my friend the truth and explained why I couldn't come. Thankfully, since I had talked to my best friend about my family situation before, she understood. In fact, she was more worried about me. I'm lucky to have such a caring friend. I felt really bad about missing my friend's wedding. But once I made the decision, I had to focus on making the reception a success. On the day of the event, Cody and I got to the venue early and tried to reach Effie, but she didn't pick up her phone for some reason. I started to worry about what to do, but finally, the in-laws showed up just 10 minutes before the reception was supposed to start. I was surprised to see them looking so messy, with untidy hair and wrinkled clothes. I was shocked and asked Effie, "What happened? Why do you look like this? Today's reception is important, isn't it?" She awkwardly replied, "I overslept, Liliana. Just make sure you behave yourself." I was really tempted to snap back with, "I don't need advice from you," but somehow, I managed to keep my cool. I have to give myself credit for staying calm during the reception. Effie, not great at talking politely, made a bunch of rude comments to our guests. She probably thought they were jokes, but their uncomfortable smiles showed they didn't find them funny. As I expected, we didn't get the contract we were hoping for, and the reception was a flop. I couldn't help but think I should have gone to my best friend's wedding instead. I was really angry that I got dragged into such a disaster, messing up my plans and causing problems with the in-laws. What made it worse was that they didn't admit they did anything wrong. They acted like it was the guests' fault for not sealing the deal after such a fancy reception. They said it was a good thing we didn't make a deal with such odd people. I couldn't believe how clueless they were. After that mess, I felt even more uncomfortable around my in-laws and started avoiding them. But there's one thing I can't get out of. Cody's family has this tradition of going on a family trip every year since he was a kid, and they still do it even though we're married now. Since we got married, I've been expected to join these trips, but I always end up doing all the boring stuff: driving, booking hotels, researching places to visit. If I try to say anything about it, I'm shut down with a "don't push it." Even when we visit tourist spots, I often end up staying in the hotel room, missing out on places I'd like to see. Honestly, I really don't look forward to these yearly family trips and secretly hope I might get sick and avoid them. But now, it's time for this year's trip, and despite saying they're short on money, my in-laws insist on a fancy trip like always. They put me in charge of finding a hotel. I planned everything carefully to keep Effie happy since she's always grumbling. Since I don't drink, I'm always the one who ends up driving. But I don't mind because it means I don't have to listen to their conversations. But just before the trip, a crisis hit. I got a call saying my mom had collapsed and was in bad shape. With that news, going on the trip, even for a short while, wasn't an option. I panicked, knowing I needed to see my mom right away. Since it was the day before the trip, I decided to cancel and get ready to go to the hospital. Cody offered to come with me to the hospital, but I said no. It felt like he was suggesting my mom might not make it, and I didn't want to hear that. When Cody and I told Effie we couldn't go on the trip, she got really mad. Effie's words hit me like a ton of bricks. You're saying you can't go on the trip I planned? If you don't come, you're no longer family. As my son's wife, it's common sense to prioritize the family trip, right? Right, Cody, she said, expecting Cody to agree. Cody seemed like he wanted to say something, but Effie cut him off, making it clear she didn't want to hear any objections. I was so shocked that I couldn't even respond. Being with my mom in her critical condition was the only thing on my mind. Just as I was trying to figure out what to say, my brother called. He told me that Mom's condition was serious but somewhat stable. I wanted to rush to her side, but he explained that due to a contagious disease outbreak, visiting wasn't possible right now. He said we could arrange a short visit later as she gets better. So there was no urgent need for me to go. Hearing this news left me feeling torn about what to do. Seeing my hesitation, my brother asked what was going on. I explained everything about the trip and my dilemma. My brother, a little annoyed, suggested something helpful that I hadn't thought of in the midst of my distress. The trip was going to a place near my parents' house, which my brother assured me would be easy to reach from a hotel if necessary. He was right. Whether I stayed at home or in the hotel, I could quickly get to my family if needed. Taking my brother's advice, I reluctantly told Effie, "Okay, I'll come on the trip." Effie responded, "Well, if you'd said that earlier, I wouldn't have gotten so upset. Marrying someone so inexperienced is tough. Just remember, if you don't come, it's divorce. I might have to teach you a few things." Cody seemed surprised, but we agreed to go, with the condition that I could leave for the hospital if necessary. Effie commented, "It'd be a problem if our driver disappeared suddenly, wouldn't it?" "Good, you're part of the family now, so our needs come first. Remember your role as my son's wife. This trip is a big deal. It should be your priority." Her smug attitude and obvious excitement annoyed me, but I decided to put up with it to avoid more trouble. On the day of the trip, I was so worried about my mom that I couldn't stop checking my phone. Meanwhile, Effie was already drinking beer in the morning. As I drove, the back seat of my car turned into a party scene, with Cody surprising me by joining in the drinking. Even though it was unexpected, I reminded myself that everyone had rearranged their schedules for this trip. I thought it would be nice if everyone could enjoy themselves since we all made an effort to be here. During the trip, Effie's demands were constant, urgently needing bathroom stops or wanting to stop for more alcohol. I felt like I was being treated as a servant, but I decided to endure it. Then my phone rang. It was my brother, thankfully informing me that Mom had survived. Her condition had stabilized and she had regained consciousness. The diagnosis was a subarachnoid hemorrhage. However, I couldn't fully relax yet. There were worries about potential aftereffects. It was comforting to have my brother keeping me updated as I was feeling anxious. When I shared the news of Mom's recovery with my in-laws, Effie dismissed it, saying, "If she's better, there's no need to bother us with such news. You're making a big deal out of nothing." Andy agreed, saying, "Exactly. Let's not spoil our trip with such grim news. We're here to have fun." I was disgusted that Andy shared Effie's view and didn't want to think of these people as my family. During the trip, they made a lot of noise in the hotel, drinking and partying, which was embarrassing. This incident deepened my distrust of my in-laws. Thankfully, Mom's condition remained stable, and there was no need to rush to the hospital, allowing us to finish the trip and return home. I felt relieved. While I was doing laundry at home, Effie showed up unexpectedly. She asked to use our dryer because they didn't have one. I was annoyed and told her, "There's a laundromat with dryers. I have my own laundry to do, and I'm using it right now, so it's not possible." But she insisted, saying, "You're always so stingy. Once you're done, it's fine. I'll come pick it up tomorrow. Have it ready by then," and tried to leave her laundry in our washroom. Cody stepped in, saying, "Liliana is tired and has work tomorrow. It's not possible for her to help with the laundry. Let's go to a laundromat." Effie got angry, feeling like her son was taking my side. She left in a hurry, leaving the laundry behind and hurling insults as she slammed the door. Looking back, maybe if things had been different that day, the outcome might have changed. Later, Effie returned and said something unexpected. She told me, "During the trip, I noticed something, Liliana. You seem unaware of being married to Cody. We might face similar situations in the future. Since we couldn't talk about it, I've decided that Liliana should make a decision." Then she placed a family contract and divorce papers on the table. I was speechless. What on earth was a family contract? It seemed ridiculous and confirmed my belief that she couldn't have a normal conversation. But Cody surprised me with his response. He said, "I have something to say. If you keep forcing your opinions on us, I'll cut ties. I can't deal with this anymore." "What do you think, Liliana? You're not a servant or housekeeper. You're not the one who's mistaken about your position." Effie was stunned. Up until now, Cody rarely spoke up against her. It wasn't because he agreed with her, but because he wanted to avoid conflict. After Cody spoke, Effie's anger turned towards me. "You've changed Cody since you married him. He used to be so sweet. It's crazy for him to talk to me like that." "You must have brainwashed him. Turn him back into the old Cody," she accused, confronting me. She believed I had manipulated Cody into defying her. Then, Cody defended me even more. "You're the one doing the brainwashing here. You always fly off the handle without listening to anyone's opinions. Honestly, you're a toxic parent. You never let me live my own life after I got married. Instead of calming down, you're attacking Liliana. Enough is enough. I'm not going to divorce, and if you have a problem, you should stay out of our lives," he firmly stated. Effie turned to Andy, who was there, and burst into tears. Andy responded, "If that's what Cody thinks, then so be it. We'll cut ties. Do as you wish," and left in a huff. I was surprised but relieved that Cody stood up for us like that. Feeling frustrated, I confided in my brother about everything. He became furious and said he couldn't stay silent if they were behaving this way. He decided to take action, which ultimately led to a tragedy in the in-laws' family. It turned out that my brother's company was a client of my in-laws' company. We had kept our family's company name a secret to avoid creating a power imbalance. The in-laws had no idea they were dealing with my family's company, but with things as they were, we couldn't continue like this. Although I had been patient and avoided mixing business and personal matters, it had reached its limit. My brother had been having issues with them not meeting deadlines. "You can't cherish those who don't cherish you." I discussed it with Cody before talking to the in-laws, and he agreed. Cody also said he had had enough. My brother decided to end the contract with my in-laws' company purely as a business decision. Their company had become problematic, consistently failing to pay on time and missing deadlines. Despite these issues, we had tolerated it because of the family connection. But now there was no reason to continue. When my in-laws learned about this, they came to us in tears, constantly apologizing. They begged my brother to reconsider the contract, but it was out of the question. Their failure to meet deadlines was their own responsibility, and they should have appreciated our patience. Cody explained everything to his parents, but they refused to accept it and ultimately cut ties in anger. Cody wasn't upset. He felt relieved. He had been torn and exhausted, caught between us and his family. Since then, we've been living peacefully. I discovered that Cody had been financially supporting his family, but he stopped doing that now. Even before this incident, their family factory was struggling and was close to shutting down due to debts. I also found out that Cody had been paying for those yearly trips for his family. It's surprising how they could act that way, using someone else's money. Now, Cody's parents are living more modestly, and Effie has started working recently. It's quite unexpected to see her, who used to consider herself a president's wife, now working. One day, I witnessed Effie being reprimanded while doing a cleaning job. Although I initially felt it might be karma, I couldn't help but feel sorry for her. Perhaps through this experience, she'll learn about the realities of life and hopefully change for the better. As for us, work is going smoothly. We haven't had children yet, but we're content with our jobs and life feels fulfilling. We're planning a trip abroad for our next vacation. For now, we're enjoying life without the added responsibility of children. My mother-in-law yelled at me, saying I not only make our son do chores and take care of him, but now I'm trying to get our money too. She called me lazy and said I only bring in $700. I felt scared as she pointed a knife at me. It hurt my feelings a lot. I was doing all the work and looking after the kids because my husband didn't have a job. I couldn't take it anymore. I left everything and took my child to my parents' house. My name is Emily. I'm 23 years old, and I live with my husband, our child, and my mother-in-law. My husband, Richard, was popular in high school. He was good at soccer and was the student president. Everyone admired him. He came back to our town after getting a job and asked me out. We started dating seriously after a few dates. Even as an adult, he was still the handsome, impressive guy I fell for. After I finished vocational school, I found out I was pregnant. It was a bit unexpected, but I thought I could have a happy life with my child and Richard. But things got tough when we talked about life after getting married. "Why don't we move into my parents' house after we get married?" Richard suggested. "But I want it to be just us three with our child," I replied. "But won't it be expensive to live on our own?" he asked. "If we stay with my parents, we won't have to worry much about money. And if we both work, we can afford our own place, right?" I reasoned. "Well, about that, my income this month isn't great," Richard admitted. "How bad is it?" I asked. "It's less than $1,000, he confessed. "What? Why is it so low? You told me you were working at an IT company," I exclaimed. "I quit that job. Now I'm making money at the casino and doing part-time work," he explained. "At a casino? Why would you do that?" I questioned. After just 1 month, he quit his job. "If you're okay with paying for everything, we can live in an apartment," he said casually. His lack of enthusiasm made me worried. Was I the only one excited about our new life? Seeing my concern, he gripped my hands tightly. "It's just temporary until I find a new job. I'll make you happy, Emily. I'll take care of all the chores and our child until then." Believing his promise, we got married and moved into his parents' house. After giving birth safely, I was determined to work hard for our son. Both Richard and my mother-in-law seemed happy, and I looked forward to our future together. But even after our son was born, Richard didn't help with chores or taking care of our child. Instead, he spent his days at the casino. After going to the casino again, "What about helping with the chores and taking care of our child?" I asked, reminding him of his promise. "Don't tell me what to do," Richard suddenly shouted back at me. Confused by his outburst, my mother-in-law came into the room, having heard the argument. "What's going on here?" she asked. "I'm busy with work, and she's asking me to help with chores and taking care of the child," Richard explained. "What? That's the wife's job," my mother-in-law exclaimed. Richard hadn't told his mother about quitting his job. Instead, he painted me as the bad wife who forced him to do all the housework and take care of our child. His lies turned my mother-in-law against me, making her resentful. Richard kept going to his part-time job and the casino, where he often lost the little money he earned. I ended up paying most of our expenses, making our life tough since I wasn't working. Eventually, I had to go back to work, leaving our son at a child care center. Luckily, I found a job as a dental hygienist pretty quickly. But when I came home from work every day, my mother-in-law would yell at me. "What do you think you're doing? This isn't playtime. You're a parent, but all you do is fool around. Make dinner now." She slammed the newspaper she was reading onto the floor in frustration. Sometimes she'd even break plates when she was really angry. My mother-in-law was unpredictable. Her mood could change in an instant. I was afraid of what she might do next, so I just went along with it. But between taking care of my son, working, and doing housework every day, I was exhausted. I couldn't take it anymore. So I decided to talk to Richard one more time. I caught him before he left for the casino early in the morning. "Listen, I've reached my limit. Can't you help out with our son a little?" "What? Like I said, I'm busy. I'm trying to find a new job." "You get that right. Do you want me to stay jobless forever?" "You'd be in trouble then, wouldn't you? Your child's father, unemployed. If you don't like it, just do what you're told," Richard retorted. "But we're barely making ends meet. I'm using up all my savings to cover our food expenses. Do you even know how expensive diapers are? You say you're making money at the casino, but we never see any of it," I argued. Most of our living expenses were covered by my money. My mother-in-law used to pay for utilities, but now she wanted $500 a month from us. So I had to dip into my savings. Even the food costs were eating away at my savings, and I was running out of money fast. All I had left was what I earned from a part-time job I had while I was in school. "That's enough. How dare you talk back to me? You've got a lot of nerve saying those things after moving into my house." Richard, who was usually kind, changed completely when it came to money or the casino. Hearing Richard shouting, my mother-in-law came into the room. "What's going on now? Is your wife complaining again?" she asked. "Yeah, she is. She's telling me to do housework and take care of our child. And she wants me to help with the living expenses. Can you believe her audacity, Mother? Anyway, I'm off to work now, Richard said as he left. Once he was gone, my mother-in-law's expression turned sharp. You've got some nerve, expecting us to take care of your child and do the housework while demanding money from us. You should be ashamed. It's not like that. I'm not making demands. Life is just really tough without a little help. I tried to explain. You must be wasting money, aren't you? Careless with finances, my mother-in-law accused. She didn't understand the situation at all. She didn't know that her own son was unemployed and spending all his time at the casino. I was told to keep quiet, but I couldn't hold back anymore. Do you know that Richard isn't earning anything? He's unemployed because he quit his job. What are you saying? Richard has always been successful. Sure, he didn't pass his college entrance exams, but he got a job at a reputable company, my mother-in-law insisted. He quit that job after just a month. Now he's always at the casino. I can't manage on my savings alone. It's not fair. I pleaded. Don't talk nonsense. My mother-in-law refused to believe me. Her son, who had always been successful in sports and studies, was her pride and joy. She couldn't accept that he was now unemployed and wasting his time at the casino. Her face turned red with anger, and she stormed out of the room. When she returned, to my horror, she was holding a knife. What are you going to do? Please, stop. I stepped back, holding my son close. My mother-in-law advanced towards me, knife raised. I'm tired of your insults towards my son. Having a wife like you is ruining Richard. You're a lazy parasite living off a measly $700. Get out of this house. Her harsh words made me break into a cold sweat. I feared for my son's safety. Seeing my fear, my mother-in-law seemed satisfied and lowered the knife. Good, you understand. We don't want parasites like you here. Just stay quiet and do your chores, she said before leaving the room. Feeling the tension lift, I collapsed to the ground. My son started to cry, sensing something was wrong. I held him close, stroking his back, and made a decision. We couldn't stay in this house any longer. It was unbelievable that someone could threaten with a knife so casually. She didn't even seem human. Until now, I had been swayed by Richard's sweet words. After every argument, I used to think I needed to support him, that he would fall apart without me. But I had reached my limit. Above all, I had to protect my crying son in my arms. I couldn't raise him in this house. I decided to leave the next day. In the morning, my stern-faced mother-in-law spoke to me. Emily, get ready for my husband's memorial service next week. All our relatives will be there, so everything must be perfect. Without waiting for my reply, she left for a neighbor's house. Next week was my father-in-law's memorial service. Richard and my mother-in-law had been planning a big feast and reminiscing about him. I was supposed to handle all the preparations, but I wasn't listening anymore. As soon as they left, I quickly packed our things and fled my in-laws' house. I didn't have much, just clothes, my son's toys, and diapers. When I got back to my parents' house, they were surprised. But when I told them everything, my mother cried and hugged me tightly. My usually calm father was very angry and told me to rest at home. Then that evening, the phone rang. It must have been Richard, wondering why I hadn't returned to make dinner. Ignoring the call and blocking his number was a good move to protect yourself and your son. The next day, mother-in-law and Richard showed up at your parents' house together, banging on the door early in the morning. Your parents tried to send them away, but you decided to let them in. As soon as you opened the door, they started shouting. How could you leave without a word? What kind of wife does that? It's strange to just disappear like that. Please, let's not shout. You're disturbing the neighbors, you said calmly, holding back the urge to point out who the real problem was. When they tried to grab you, your father stepped in. We'll call the police if you resort to violence. Let's talk inside first, with my parents present, he said firmly. Once inside, you initiated the conversation with mother-in-law and Richard. Why did you leave without saying anything? I was overwhelmed with childcare and my job, and yet you never helped, despite my pleas. Well, I was busy too. Busy at the casino, like I've already said. Our son doesn't go to the casino. Stop spreading lies. Richard insisted, while his mother seemed to still believe he was working. It seemed she thought highly of him and couldn't imagine otherwise. Mother-in-law, where do you think Richard is employed? You asked. At a securities company. I saw the job offer letter. After all, she replied confidently. Well, why don't we call them and find out if Richard is still there? That would settle it. You suggested. Oh, wait a minute. Richard stammered nervously. What's the problem? If you're working there, it shouldn't be an issue. Ignoring Richard's discomfort, you dialed the securities company on your phone and switched to speaker mode so everyone could hear. You asked if Richard was working there. That individual resigned several years ago, if memory serves me right. He was with us for just about a month, came the response from the other end of the line. The words from the phone left mother-in-law speechless. Richard was looking down, his fists clenched. Did you really quit? Why? She asked. Because it was frustrating. Everything was just grunt work, and the boss would yell at me for the smallest mistakes. It felt like harassment, Richard explained. Richard, why didn't you tell us what you've been doing since? You asked. I'm job hunting, he replied vaguely. How many years have you been job hunting? You don't seem to be getting any offers. Tell me, how many companies have you applied to so I can verify? You pressed. Well, there aren't any good job offers. When a good company comes along, I'll get a job, Richard said confidently. You seem very confident in yourself. By the way, you're working part-time now, right? How much did you make last month? You questioned. 700, Richard admitted reluctantly. 700? Didn't you tell me that Emily could only earn 700 and couldn't support herself? So you were the one supporting her? You questioned, realizing that Richard had misled his mother about your income. In reality, as a dental hygienist, you earned at least $2,000. Mother-in-law, now knowing the truth, blushed furiously as she glared at Richard. In response, Richard became extremely angry. Why do you have to do this? This is all your fault, making me look like a fool, he exclaimed, clearly hurt and embarrassed. He hit the table hard. You shouldn't reveal things like this in public. It's defamation. If you want to sue, go ahead, but I'll sue you for threatening me with a knife too. Besides, lawsuits aren't free. Do you have the money? You countered, standing up for yourself and refusing to be intimidated. At that, Richard clicked his tongue, likely realizing he had spent all his earnings from the casino. As mother-in-law was in shock after learning the truth about Richard's unemployment, I decided to lay it all out for her. I've been the one earning all our living expenses. When we got married, Richard promised to take care of the housework and childcare instead of me working. But after we got married, he didn't do any of it. That's different from what you heard, I explained. It seemed mother-in-law had simply believed whatever Richard told her, right? She had gotten upset when I asked for help with the chores and childcare. She even pointed a knife at me and told me to keep quiet and do my housework. I could see her face turning pale as she stood in front of my parents, being called out for her behavior. Mother-in-law, you haven't contributed anything to the household either. We've been living off my income this whole time. I have no intention of continuing to work for you, so I want a divorce, I stated firmly. Divorce? Wait a minute. Don't just drop that bombshell all of a sudden, Richard protested. Yes, that's right. I'll help out too, so please come back, my father added, offering support. No thank you, I stated firmly. Their surprised expressions indicated they were taken aback. I, who had always given in after being yelled at or begged persistently, had clearly refused this time. I don't want to live with someone who threatens me with a knife just to get their way. I'm tired of living with Richard, who spends all day gambling at the casino. I'll make sure you pay me compensation for all the hard work I've put in so far, as well as child support, I declared. No way. That's going to be a problem. I can't possibly afford that, Richard protested. Well then, stop gambling and start paying, I retorted. But I can't do that. I don't have a job, Richard admitted. I was appalled by Richard's lack of understanding. You don't have a job because you're too picky about what work you do. Do you have any desire to do whatever it takes? There aren't many companies out there that would hire someone without qualifications or experience. Don't take society for granted. Many people work hard in difficult situations to earn a living. Yet people like you, who quit their jobs on a whim because they got angry or didn't enjoy it, no one will want to hire them. He keeps saying he'll find a job someday, but at this rate, it's unlikely. I'll contact you through my lawyer about the divorce proceedings. Please do not contact me from now on, I stated firmly. What? How selfish. What's going to happen to us? Richard protested. At my words, mother-in-law flared up in anger. I put on a deliberately puzzled expression and responded to her hostile words. I don't know. Maybe you should figure out how to earn a living on your own, you heartless woman. Heartless? I don't want to be called that by you. Remember when you called me a parasite living off a measly $700 per month? Remember when you said that to me, your daughter-in-law, while holding a knife to my throat? By the way, the lazy person making $700 a month is right next to you. Are you not telling him to leave? I confronted her. As I spoke, mother-in-law started shaking with rage. Maybe I went too far. She leaned over and grabbed my collar. Stop it. I told you I will call the police if you lay a hand on her. My father forcefully pulled her off of me, but she was too riled up. So not only threats with a knife, but physical violence too. How barbaric. Don't you think it's better not to compound your crimes any further? I said, ignoring her resentful glare, and turned to Richard. I used to believe you would change, but I'm giving up on that now. I need to protect our son. I won't trouble you anymore. I'll take care of the money, the housework, and the childcare, so please come back. You'll take care of the money? Really? Even with careful budgeting, it's over $1,000 a month. Can you earn that? Richard's face turned pale upon hearing my words. He had never made more than $1,000 since he quit his job. But I have Mom's pension, he stammered. So, you're telling me you're dependent on my pension now? Mother-in-law couldn't keep her calm at Richard's absurd words. There's nothing else I can do. I don't have a job. Now I'm doing part-time work. Can we try to work things out? Richard pleaded. My father, hearing Richard's unyielding stance, finally spoke up. Richard, you and your mother have taken great advantage of our precious daughter. If I had known you were such a person, I would have opposed the marriage by all means. I will never let her step foot in your house again. I'll sever all ties. But I can't live without Emily. Please, give me another chance. Richard pleaded desperately. Don't joke with me. Can't live without our daughter? You're already planning to depend on her. A man who has no intention or grit to earn his own living and make his wife's life comfortable doesn't deserve our daughter. Leave now, my father retorted firmly. For the first time, I saw my father shout. It sent chills down my spine and seemed to shake Richard and mother-in-law as well. Richard was kneeling, his head bowed. It was a stark contrast to the charming image I had of him during our college days. Please reconsider. I beg you, Emily, Richard pleaded once more. But my parents wouldn't budge. They were fed up. I don't want to be treated like a slave by you two anymore. Please don't involve me in anything from now on, I explained to Richard and mother-in-law. As soon as we kicked them out of the house, we locked the door. For a while, they banged on the door and shouted. But as soon as a passing police officer addressed them, they ran off. Later, I heard that Richard was cut off by his mother and kicked out of the house. Now he's living in a rundown apartment, surviving on part-time work and struggling financially. Apparently, due to his short temper, he doesn't stick to one job for long and keeps switching between part-time jobs at convenience stores, construction sites, and so on. He's barely making ends meet. In order to pay me compensation and child support, he's juggling multiple part-time jobs and is unable to look for a full-time job. There were rumors that he's still going to the casino and may even be in debt. But I'm not interested. News of Richard's downfall spread quickly among our high school classmates, and I received numerous sightings and information about him. It seems that the neighbors have witnessed mother-in-law kicking Richard out and their frequent arguments. His unemployment and the fact that he was left by his wife became public knowledge. She must be feeling extremely embarrassed after boasting about her son all the time. She hardly ever leaves the house now. With the help of my parents in doing the housework and raising my son, I continue working. I now have more free time to spend with my son. I don't need to leave him at the child care center since my parents take care of him. So everything has been great. I wish I had divorced sooner. From now on, I'm going to cherish the time I spend with my son and watch him grow up closely. I caught my husband cheating. It's not something you see every day. Most people might confront their spouse if they find out they're cheating by checking their phone or something. But I saw it happen right in front of me in a place and time I never expected. I always had a feeling something was off with his relationship with someone else, but I never thought I'd actually see him cheating in public. My name's Christina. I stay at home with our 6-year-old son. The day I saw my husband cheating, he had a day off from work, and we planned to go out together as a family. But when I woke up, he was already gone. I got a message from him saying he was taking care of his sister, who had a high fever. He said no one else was home, so he'd be back in the evening. I felt disappointed. I had promised my son we'd go to an amusement park, and he was really looking forward to it. I knew my husband had been busy with a big work project lately, and he hadn't had a break in months, so this was supposed to be a rare chance for us to spend time together. But instead, he went to take care of his sister. She's engaged, so he could have let her manage on her own. But my husband has always been overly attached to his sister. He even told me he was attracted to me because I reminded him of her, which always made me uncomfortable. She's a lovely person, but being compared to her felt strange. My husband used to talk about wanting a son and daughter, and he used to initiate intimacy often. But since our son was born, that's changed. Now it hardly happens at all. We're still young, and he used to enjoy intimacy, so I'm worried he might be doing it with someone else. I understand. Forgiving someone for betraying your trust can be really tough. But what's even more frustrating is that my husband seems to vanish even on his days off, like today. It wouldn't hurt for him to spend some time with our child once in a while, right? Our kid adores him and gets upset when he's not around. But my husband seems indifferent towards our child. He doesn't bother with birthday presents or show up for school events. No matter how much free time he has, he often comes home early but just locks himself away to play games all day. He hardly even sees our son anymore. At this rate, our little boy, who used to be so close to his dad, might start feeling like he's just a stranger. And here's the thing, my husband keeps saying he's busy with some big project. But that's a lie. He's hardly ever home. So I asked an old classmate who works at the same company as him if my husband is really that busy. Turns out, my husband's not known for being a workaholic at all. People actually joke that he's more of a desk-warming employee who doesn't have much to do and always looks bored. He clocks out on time every day. Hearing this confirmed my suspicions. Despite claiming to be swamped with work, his paycheck hasn't changed much, and he never seems tired from working overtime. It just doesn't add up, and it makes me wonder if he's cheating. Feeling pretty frustrated, I finished making breakfast. When I checked the time, I noticed something odd. Normally, my son wakes up by 7 a.m., even if I don't wake him, but it was already past that time. If we didn't hurry, he'd miss the nursery school bus. So I hurried to wake him up. In his room, he was still fast asleep. I tried gently waking him by saying, "It's morning, wake up." But instead of a response, he let out a groan of pain. Worried, I reached out to feel his forehead. It was burning up. I called his name and gently shook his shoulder. He barely opened his eyes and said, "Mom, I can't breathe." My heart raced. There was an outbreak of a disease at the nursery school, and I couldn't help but wonder if my son had caught it too. I'd heard about kids dying from it, so I was seriously scared for my son's life. Feeling desperate, I tried calling my husband, but he didn't pick up. I couldn't wait for an email reply, so I reached out to my mom, who's a nurse, for advice. Following her instructions, I quickly made an ice pack and checked my son's temperature. It was really high, over 102.2 degrees Fahrenheit. I called an ambulance and made sure my son drank plenty of water while we waited. My mom mentioned it might be a heat stroke, too. Because of infection risks, I couldn't ride in the ambulance, so I took a taxi to the hospital my son would be taken to. I kept trying to reach my husband, even though I knew it probably wouldn't work. And as expected, it didn't. So I left him a message online, hoping he'd see it and show up if he cared enough. At the hospital, I waited outside the emergency room, praying for my son's quick recovery. In the past, I lost my father after he was rushed to an emergency room. I couldn't shake the fear that the same might happen to my son. But my mom, who was there to support me, kept reassuring me, saying, "It'll be okay. It'll be okay." An hour later, the doctors managed to save my son, but they recommended keeping him in the hospital for a week for observation, so he was moved to a hospital room. But my husband still didn't show up that day. The next day, I went home to grab some clothes for my son and decided to bring him some fruit as a get-well-soon gift. I also wanted to thank the doctor who had helped us. As I passed by the emergency room, suddenly, the area erupted into chaos. I noticed the commotion and thought I might be in the way, so I decided to delay my thank you to the doctor. Just as I was about to head to my son's room, I saw a man and a woman on stretchers. They were barely covered with a thin blanket and looked almost naked. "It seems they're still stuck together," someone commented. "It looks like it happened during intercourse." I couldn't imagine how uncomfortable that must be, and being transported like that must have been incredibly embarrassing. As I tried to pass by, I made eye contact with the man. Normally it would have been an awkward moment, but this was different. I was stunned because the man was my husband. "What are you doing here?" I blurted out in surprise. Well, I caught my sister's cold, and my husband stumbled over his words. I was completely thrown off. What were the chances my husband would be here, especially right after my son was admitted yesterday? Why was he naked and being wheeled in? And who was the woman with him? My mind was racing with questions. In the midst of my confusion, I locked eyes with the woman beside my husband. Even in my haze, I knew she was his affair partner, and I shot her a glare. Her face looked strangely familiar, and then it hit me. Why is Christina here? That voice snapped me back to reality. Of course, the woman was my husband's sister, Brenna. Time seemed to slow down in that moment. I had suspected my husband of lying about taking care of his sister and meeting another woman, but this was beyond what I had imagined. Even if he came to see our son, showing up stuck together with another woman, especially his own sister, was just too much. Despite my urge to confront them, I had to hold back and wait for their treatment since they were being taken away on stretchers. I knew they couldn't escape, so I decided to address the situation later. With that in mind, I headed to visit my son, my initial reason for being there. But inside, I felt sick with worry. Spending time with my son helped me sort through my feelings a bit. When I checked my phone, I saw a barrage of messages from my husband online. As expected, he was trying to cover up the situation, not even mentioning our son being in the hospital. I chose to ignore him and waited a little longer. After a while, the doctor who had treated my son the day before came by. With a smile, the doctor said, "Your son is doing really well. He's recovering faster than expected. His fever has gone down and his condition has stabilized. We initially worried about an infection, but it seems he had heat stroke along with a cold." The doctor praised me for making sure my son drank plenty of water, saying I was a smart mom. But really, it was mostly thanks to my own mom. I made a mental note to get her some nice meat as a gift next time. I thanked the doctor sincerely with a deep bow. But despite feeling relieved about my son's health, I knew I was about to face a tough situation. As my anger simmered inside me, I quickly adjusted my expression into a smile for my son's sake. "Mama's not mad, sweetie. I'll be back soon," I reassured him. Leaving the hospital, I called my husband, who had left me over 100 missed calls. The moment he answered, he launched into excuses. "It's not what you think. There's a reason," he started saying. It struck me that he had his priorities all wrong. Shouldn't he be worried about our son first? Well, a man so wrapped up in an inappropriate relationship with his own sister without a care for our son wouldn't bother worrying about him. I thought bitterly. With a husband like that, I couldn't help but worry about our son's future. I couldn't see any change in my husband's behavior, so I made up my mind to divorce him. "You were too busy with that, even when our son was suffering, huh? I bet you found time for it whenever you please, even with your own sister." It's sickening. I spat at him. He was left speechless. "And just so you know, I've already informed your parents. I won't involve your workplace, though. It'd be a problem if you couldn't pay alimony and child support." Goodbye with that. I delivered my final words to him. 3 days later, my son's health had fully recovered sooner than expected, so I completed the discharge process and returned home with my precious son. Of course, my husband was nowhere to be found. After that incident, my husband showed up in person to apologize, but I handed him the divorce papers I had already signed. He begged for forgiveness, pleading it was a mistake the first time. "Please just forgive me. You're everything to me." But in a stern tone, I told him, "You're still lying. Even now. I already know everything. Your sister confessed everything." I knew my husband wouldn't accept the divorce easily, so I first approached his sister, who was involved in the affair. "Congratulations on your upcoming wedding," I said to her. "Thank you. I wanted to send you a message, but I thought of a better idea." "Want to hear it?" she replied. "You're not going to tell anyone about this, right?" she pleaded. "Oh, I plan to. I want everyone to see who you really are." "It'll be crystal clear," I said with a smirk. "Please don't. It'll ruin my life," she begged. Pretending to think it over, I kept smiling. Well, I guess I could keep quiet, If you tell me exactly how many times you were with my husband, then we'll see. Though your brother will still feel betrayed. What's your choice? Without hesitation, my sister-in-law spilled everything. Please, don't tell him. I'll tell you everything, she admitted easily. When I confronted my husband about his affair with his sister, he was so shocked that he fainted. When he came to, he signed the divorce papers and left our home feeling defeated. I hired a lawyer to handle our divorce proceedings, demanding custody of our son, alimony, and child support from my husband. At first, he tried to negotiate the terms, but when I hinted at revealing more, he agreed to my terms and left the lawyer's office. Somehow, news of the affair spread to my husband's workplace, and he faced severe consequences. A month later, he lost his job and had to take up a job in a food factory, putting strawberries on cakes to make ends meet. At the factory, he became the subject of gossip among younger colleagues, making him feel uncomfortable. Meanwhile, despite me not revealing the truth, my husband's sister's engagement was called off, and her reputation suffered. It turns out her boyfriend suspected her of cheating, just like I did, and hired a private investigator. She had to pay a hefty sum as compensation for the broken engagement and now works at a nightclub. Recently, her ex-boyfriend gave me a photo of them together, saying, "Keep it in case you need it." I was taken aback by his audacity, but I stored it away, just in case my husband tries anything. I'll use it if necessary. For a fresh start, I moved back in with my parents and am raising my son with their support. They're sad they can't see their grandson often, so they offered to help as much as they can. I'm grateful for their support, but I'll only rely on them when I really need to. It's amazing how my son has been in perfect health since that high fever, almost like it never happened. He's even received awards for perfect attendance for 3 years straight. He seems to have completely moved on from his biological father and is enjoying life to the fullest. That brings me more joy than anything else. Oh, I almost forgot to mention, our family has expanded with the addition of Angel, the white cat who's now comfortably sleeping on my lap. Angel used to visit our yard often before we moved, and when I went to bid him farewell, he hopped onto my lap and stayed there. I couldn't bear to leave him behind, so I brought him with me to my parents' house. Now he's become close with my parents, and he's just as dear to me as my son. Looking ahead, I want to witness my son's growth alongside my parents and Angel. As I sit here on the porch, gently stroking Angel, that's what fills my heart with warmth and contentment.